All right, guys, this is our Chapter 9 review test. We're going to go over our answers. First off, vocabulary. We only have one this time. Blank are two or more fractions that name the same amount, and they're either equivalent fractions or unit fractions. So if you remember, a unit fraction is how many it's divided into, and the number is always a 1 on the top. So is that two or more fractions that name the same amount? Nope, because it's always a 1 in the numerator. So it's equivalent fractions, two or more fractions that name the same amount. Equivalent means the same. Okay, here we've got less than, greater than, or equal to. So the first one here is 2/6 and 2/8. So which is bigger? And I actually used my fraction strip here, and I have 2/6 and 2/8. So I can definitely see that 2/6 is bigger than 2/8. Because remember that the higher the bottom number goes, the bigger the denominator, the more pieces in your one whole. So if the numerator, the top number is the same, the smaller bottom number is going to be bigger. Okay, so let's see. Number 2, 3, 1/4, and 1/8. So I know here that 1/4 has 2/8 in it. Let's go ahead and take a look here at our fractions. We had 1/4. Okay, there's our 1/4. And then 1/8 again. So again, the bigger the bottom number, the more pieces it's broken into. So 1/4 is definitely bigger than 1/8. Number 4, 3/8 and 7/8. Well, we know that it's divided into the same number of pieces. And for this one, I'm actually going to do a sketch. Okay, so that bottom line isn't the straightest line ever. But let's see. Oop. So this top one, we're going to do our 3/8, and the bottom one's going to be 7/8. So we know that the wholes are both 8s. So 3 is 1, 2, 3. The bottom 7/8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we have 7/8 versus 3/8. 7/8 is definitely bigger. So remember that it's like a mouth. Some of you like to make it an alligator mouth or a monster mouth, but it's definitely eating 7/8. Okay, 2/4 and 2/4. Well, it's the same fraction. 2/4 is equal to 2/4. Check, check. Okay, 3/3 and 2/3. So I know that if I do my little quick sketch, and I have 3/3, that's how many go in a whole. So right there, I've got 3/3. 2/3 isn't a whole, it's not the whole one. So I know that 3/3 is bigger than 2/3. I'm also going to look at it up here on my fraction strip. So here's my thirds over here. Whoop, upside down third. All right, so we have 3/3 here, which makes a whole. 1, 2, 3. Now we know that if we only have 2/3, it doesn't make a whole, and we know that that's smaller. So 2/3 is smaller than 3/3, or our little monster is going to eat the 3/3. For 4/6 versus 4/2. Now I know that 4/2, 4 is bigger than 2. So how many times does 2 go into 4? It goes in 2 times. So I know that this is actually 2 wholes. And 4/6 isn't even a single whole. So I know that that's going to be smaller than 2 wholes. All right, writing the fractions in order from least to greatest. Now I know we oftentimes mix these up. That's why I always try to underline to help me remember least to greatest or smallest to biggest. So if we look at our first one, these here are all sixths. So I know that because these are all 6, all I have to do is compare the numbers on top. So our smallest one out of 1, 4, and 3 is 1. Our second smallest one, our middle one, is 3. And our biggest one is 4. So 1/6, 3/6, and 4/6. If we look over here, so we've got some different numbers, but they all have 1s at the top. We talked about this a little bit earlier, and if you remember, the bigger the number, the smaller the piece. So if we look at these numbers at the bottom, 8s, those are our smallest pieces. And then we have 2 and 3, so which one's going to be bigger? The halves, right? So since our numbers are on the top, we're actually looking at which piece is the biggest and which piece is the smallest. So our least piece, our smallest piece, is our 1/8. Our biggest piece is 1/2, which is going over there, which means our 1/3 goes right in the middle. For number 10, we've got 3/3, 1/3, and 0/3. Again, these are all the same in the denominator. So that means we're looking just at our top numbers. Out of these three numbers, 0 is definitely our smallest, 0/3. Followed by 1/3, followed by 3/3. Number 11. So we've got 8ths, 4ths, and 6. But again, our top number is 4 on all of these. So we're really comparing the size of our pieces. So which of these is going to have the biggest pieces? Okay, which one's going to have the smallest pieces? Okay, if you said the 4 are going to have the biggest pieces and the 8th are going to be the smallest pieces, you'd be right. Ooh, it's out of focus. Let's see if we can get it. There we go. So our 4/8 would be our smallest, followed by 4/6, followed by 4/4. Another way we could look at this, 4/4 is equal to what? It's equal to 1. These two are both smaller, so we know that this one's going to be our biggest one no matter what. Okay, down here, using the model or number line to find the equivalent fraction. And if you remember, equivalent means the same. So here we have 3/4. And we're looking for out of 8ths. So I know that I can take my fourths and divide them in 2 to make 8 parts. I'm going to shade in my 3/4 so you can kind of see. I think you can see. So 3/4 is equal to how many 8ths? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6/8. So 3/4 is equal to 6/8. Over here, we have 2/8 in this one. So we have 1, 2 colored in, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 out of 8 total. So 2/8. And then we already have it drawn for us into quarters, into 4. But we want it to be equivalent, so it needs to color in the same amount. So here, we color in the same amount. So how many fourths does that use up? 1. So 2/8 is equal to 1/4. Number 14, 1/3. If we find 1/3 on our number line, put our dot right at 1/3. If we look above it, it has the 6, and the bottom it's the 3rd. So 1/3 is here, and it's the same as 2/6. So 1/3 is equal to 2/6. I'm going to flip our paper. Okay. Tally ran 3/8 of a mile at the park. Which distance is less than 3/8 of a mile? So we know that we need this information, 3/8 of a mile. So I'm going to take a look at these. These are all in 8ths, right? The denominator's all the same. It's all 8. So we're looking at the top number. And let's see, we're looking for less. We want less than. So we're looking for something that is less than 3/8. So is 1 less than 3? Yeah, so that could be our answer. Okay, is 7 less than 3? Nope, not our answer. I'm going to cross that one off. Is 4 less than 3? Nope. Is 3 less than 3? No, it's equal to. Which means the only one it could possibly be is 1/8. Number 16. Mrs. Harrison is ordering a dozen flowers for a party. She says that 1/6 of the flowers must be red and that 1/3 of the flowers must be pink. Which of the following correctly compares the two fractions? So we know that 1/6 are red, and we know that 1/3 are pink. So let's see, 1/6 and 1/3. Without really drawing it out, what do you guys think? Which part would be bigger? Which part would be smaller? So we talked about earlier, again, we're looking at our bottom number, our denominator. The bigger it is, the smaller the pieces. So if they are both the same on the numerator, this one's a 6 and this one's a 3. So this one's going to have smaller pieces, which means that our 1/3 is going to be greater than or bigger than our 1/6. But that's just using my mind. I'm also going to work it out using my fraction strips because I want to make sure I'm right. So we still have our 1/3 set up, so we'll leave one of those. We'll take our thirds out. And then our other one is a 1/6, which is this blue one here. Okay, and if we look at that, 1/3 is definitely greater than 1/6. And if we go down here and look at our problem, 1/3 is greater than 1/6, so our answer is D. Problem number 17. David, Maria, and Simone are shading same size index cards for a science project. David shaded 2/4 of his index card, Maria shaded 2/8 of her index card, and Simone shaded 2/6 of her card. Which shows the shaded parts of the index cards in order from greatest to least? So I know that 2/4, and 2/8 and 2/6. And we're putting them in order from biggest to least. So I'm going to go ahead and write my numbers down here so I have them. 2/4, 2/8, and 2/6. So if I take a look at these numbers, my numerators are all 2s. So those are all the same. So again, I'm looking at the size of the pieces. Which pieces are going to be biggest and which are going to be the smallest? My 4ths, my 8ths, my 6ths. So I'm going to think about it for a minute. I'm going to remember that the bigger the piece, or the bigger the denominator, the smaller the piece. So I'm going to make a guess that that is going to be my smallest. And since this is the smallest number, those pieces are going to be the biggest. And then I'm going to double check it with my fraction strips. So we have 4ths, 8ths, and 6ths. So I'm going to get this third out of here. We have our 4th, and we have 2 of them. So we're going to put 2/4 here, and we need 2/6 right here. Okay, that's definitely a difference right there, right guys? And what was our last one? We needed 8ths. And 8ths over here are my brown ones. I lost one. Okay, so we're going to put these down. So we have our 2/4, 2/6, and 2/8. So which is biggest? The 2/4, right? And which is smallest is our 2/8. So let's see if that was my guess down here. I guess that my 8ths would be the smallest and my 4ths would be the biggest. So if we're doing from greatest to least, our greatest one would then be 2/4, right? That's our biggest piece if we look up here. We even ended up with them in order. So 2/4, and then in the middle would be 2/6, right? Double check, okay. 2/6, and then 2/8. So our answer would be B. And now on to our last page here. We got a lot of drawings over here. We'll get to those. Alexa and Rachel each ordered a medium pizza. Alexa's pizza was cut into 8 equal slices. Rachel's pizza was cut into 6 equal slices. Each pizza had only 3 slices with mushrooms on top. So before I even read the rest, I'm going to put, I know there's 8 slices and 6 slices, and then each only had 3, only 3. Okay. Write a fraction for each girl's pizza to tell what part had mushrooms. Then tell whose pizza had a greater part with mushrooms. So I'm going to look over here at my drawings. So Alexa's pizza had 8 pieces and Rachel's pizza had 6 pieces. So I drew this and it's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 pieces. Rachel's pizza has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pieces. So I got that information over here. I got my 8 and my 6. Now each pizza had only 3 slices with mushrooms. So I shaded in 3 slices. 1, 2, 3, 3/8. And then I shaded in 1, 2, 3, 3/6. So our question then is tell whose pizza had a greater part with mushrooms. And if I look at these drawings here, who had the greater part? Well, Rachel's pizza had more, right? This part would have to be colored too in there. So Rachel's pizza had more because 3/6 is greater than 3/8. So 3/6 is bigger than 3/8, so her pizza had more. Number 22. Brian and Casey's mother made 2 small pizzas that were the same size. She cut one pizza into 8s, I'm going to circle that, and the other pizza into 6s. She placed 7/8 of the first pizza in Brian's lunch and 5/6 of the second pizza in Casey's lunch. Whew, we got a lot of numbers here. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to draw my two pizzas. So I drew my pizza in 8s and my pizza in 6. And I know that the pizza with 8s is going into Brian's lunch. The pizza with 6 is going into Casey's lunch. So she placed 7/8 of the first pizza in Brian's lunch. So 7/8. So I'm going to color in 7/8. That leaves just one slice that doesn't go in. And then 5/6 of Casey's lunch, which again is just one slice that doesn't go in. So we have 7/8 and 5/6. Our question is, which boy had less pizza in his lunch? Explain the strategy you used to solve the problem. So if I look over here, who's got more pizza in their lunch? Who's got less pizza in their lunch? Well, if I look, Brian's got more pizza in his lunch than Casey does, because 7/8 is bigger than 5/6. So I wrote that. Casey had less because 5/6 is less than 7/8. The strategy I used was to make models and compare. I could also have used fraction strips or a number line. Those are 3 ways we've been using to solve our problems. Number 23. Mrs. Reed baked 4 cakes for the party. Use the rectangles to represent the cakes. Okay, so we have 4 rectangles. Check. A. Draw lines to show how Mrs. Reed could cut 1 cake into thirds, 1 cake into fourths, 1 into sixths, and 1 into eighths. So for thirds, I divided it into 3 pieces, equal pieces. Fourths, 4 equal pieces. Sixths, 6 equal pieces. Eighths, 8 equal pieces. Check. Got that down. At the end of the party, equivalent amounts of 2 pairs of cakes were left over. So remember that equivalent means the same. So we're looking for 2 pairs of cakes that are the same. So that means 2 that are the same. We're going to shade equivalent amounts on pairs of the rectangles to show the cake that might have been left over. Then write 2 pairs of equivalent fractions. So this one is a little tricky, but I'm going to show you what I did. So we have our thirds, our fourths, our sixths, and our eighths. So I shaded in 1/3, and then I look over here, and 1/4 is definitely not equal to 1/3. And then I shade in my 1/6, but I know that 1/6 and 1/3 can be connected because 3 goes into 6, right? So I know that 2/6 is the same as 1/3. So I know that those 2 can be equal. So I'm going to write that down here. 1/3 is equal to 2/6. And so that means I did this one and I did this one. So I'm going to bet that the other 2 that match are probably our other 2 cakes, right? And 1/4 and 1/8. This is looking for common denominators. So we're looking for a number that could be equal on the bottom. And if I do my 1/4 and I do 2/8, 2/8 is equal to 1/4. Another way, if I'm having trouble seeing that, I could draw them on top of each other, which makes it a little easier. So if I do this one, so say this is our fourths. So we have 1/4 shaded in here, right? Now if I make this one into eighths, I'm going to be dividing each of those fourths into 2. So what would be equal, if I look down here, to my 1/4? It would be 2/8. I could also do this with my fraction strip. So if I pull these out of the way and get my 6's out of here, I can see that 2/8 is equal to 1/4. So those are our 2 answers. 1/3 equals 2/6 and 1/4 equals 2/8. Yeah, I totally did it out of order, didn't I, guys? Okay, flipping back to page 383, here for number 18. Marissa is decorating a paper plate. She is shading 1/4 of the plate blue. Which model shows 1/4 shaded? So I look at this one. This is 2. This is 1, 2, 3. This is a lot more than 4. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4. So this one's going to be our answer, D. It's the only one that has fourths. Olivia is painting 2 same-size tiles for art class. She paints 7/8 of one tile green. Then Olivia paints 5/8 of the other tile yellow. Which of the following correctly compares the painted parts of the two tiles? Okay, so we have two same size tiles. One is 7/8 green. Okay, and then we have one that is 5/8 yellow. Which of the following correctly compares the painted parts of the two tiles? So I guess it doesn't really matter what color we have here, right? Because we have 7/8 painted and we have 5/8 painted. So if I look at this, my denominator is the same. It's both 8s, which means we're looking at our top number. So which of those is bigger? Is 7 bigger than 5? Yeah. So 7/8 is going to be bigger than 5/8. So our answer is B. 7/8 is greater than 5/8. Number 20, our last problem. Nicholas ran 5/6 of a mile on Monday, 2/6 of a mile on Tuesday, and 6/6 of a mile on Wednesday. Which list orders the fractions from least to greatest? So again, I'm going to write them down. 5/6, 2/6, and 6/6. I know that my denominator is the same, so the numbers I'm really comparing is the top number. So which is the smallest, the least? 2. 2 is our littlest. And out of 5 and 6, 6 is greater. So our first number is going to be 2/6, so it's not this one and it's not that one. Our next number is going to be 5/6, which means it's not this one either, so our answer is A.